Hello there, my name is Waliyullah. Our place of work is one of the best places we spend most of our time, and at the same time comes with a lot of negative series of events, including bullying, sexual harassment from either gender, from colleagues at work, workplace psychological stress that leads to irrational behaviors from workers, unhealthy communication, illicit extramarital affairs, politics, or you can call it politics, a breach of confidentiality, gossiping, physical abuse, among others. We have heard of cases of workers killing co-workers over being sacked, bullied, or not being treated justly. Cases of suicide is on the rise on a daily basis. And the big question is, how do we identify and mitigate these risks in the workplace? What are the health and safety implications, and how does it affect the organization? What does the law say? Join me, Waliyullah, with Bunmi a legal practitioner, on Workers' Mental Health and Safety series, live on Instagram every Sunday at 5 p.m. Would you like to be a part of our discussion? Do you want to share your experience with us? Reach out to us on our Instagram handles. Dear all, it is time to talk on silent issues affecting the workforce. See you there. Bye.
From the HR balance, looking at it from an HR point of view, the total well-being of you as a worker, you are a human being first before you became a worker in any environment. You are first a human being, and that's the way we are taught in the HR balance. As well as the legal balance. Legal balance, we see that safety is justice. Anything that has to do with promoting your right to good health and safety at work is justice.
Some things are very important. These are the key things that we need in the workplace. For example, if colleagues are dating themselves, they always want to come early to the work. They always want to come early to the workplace so that they will see themselves. Indirectly, it is affecting productivity, because when workers come early to pick up their work activities, it's a sign of is a proactive sign of productivity.
If people if you are in the same organization, you cannot be married. Some even go down to, okay, so if you are in the same organization, as long as you're not in the same department or unit. Why do you think this is so? I want this to be as conversational as possible. Some people do not know the reason behind this. But I would say from the HR balance, the reason behind this is to avoid what they call nepotism, favoritism. When you are married and you have your relative working in the same company, you will see that sometimes when you are filling some forms, trying to get some employment forms, they ask you if you have a relative that is working in the same company. And they ask you the department, they ask you their names. It's just to ensure that there is no case of nepotism, favoring one person above the other person just by reason of affinity, relationship, marriage, the fact that they are relatives, they are cousins.
This is what they call soulmate. We are soulmate. Two souls becoming one. So even if my wife is resigning and is going to be at home, it's as good as I resigning too, because the issue here is that one person is at home. I don't want to know if it's the male or the female, wife or the husband. The issue is that somebody is at home and is not comfortable with it. Now you now have to put it on metrics. We look at we create a checklist. What are those things that
people trying to label, or people trying to and then it affects people with such issues to be able to come out to speak.
Kind of support, mental health support that we offer in the workplace to people who have mental health conditions before we can have an expert arrival that will take that.
It can be issue that is lasting for a period of time. Maybe someone just got divorced, or someone just passed through a particular stage in life and is not feeling himself like he's supposed to be. Someone that is always excited in the workplace, for example, is always happy, then suddenly he starts you see him being seclusive, being idle, trying to be alone, not concentrating at work. All these things can have a later
ordinance of 1916, and that was crafted by colonial masters. It was crafted in 1916. I think it got repealed to 1968 or so. 1968 or so, it got repealed. But even at that, it still does not have those issues that look at mental health in its full
place. Someone received a shocking news. At that moment, the person can collapse. At that moment, the person can have seizure. At that moment, the person can go through an emotion, a sort of depression that can
behavior injures another person, that even leads to the death of another. Maybe someone comes to work with a gun because he's depressed or is mad or angry and has some mental condition, which is very possible. I mean, it has been happening even in the US, and kills another employer. What happens? Does the position of the law, does it change the fact that an insane person, when the person is pleased insanity and is proven, I mean, the judge accepts the plea of insanity, does it change the fact that that insane person will not be prosecuted? I mean, will not be
people running excessive work hours, people running themselves beyond their coping capacity. I mean, if you follow reports, you look at the lady that died sometime last year or 2 years ago in Japan, where workers are often beyond their regular hours. She knew she was going to die. She has logged in more than 48 hours non-stop. And I mean, what do you expect?
Some employers of labor are just concerned about, do the work and just get paid and just go, And what they don't realize is that it affects productivity. It causes decline in productivity. So what they're actually aiming at is almost like penny wise, pound foolish.
You can't manage who you don't know, and that's where we look at let every staff be adequately profiled, and that is where we look at HRO and employee relations managers. Let every
if there's an emergency, to check what's happening to the person. Same thing applies to this mental health state. Check, observe, have your chart for behavioral based safety. Check your workers. Then if there's a need to call for external help, call for external help. But before the help comes, give them a kind of care. Let them feel that yes, they belong to this organization. So having that kind of mindset will actually reduce the level of trauma, the level of depression that they face. Because I will not lie to you, a lot of people are facing a lot of depression. They are facing trauma based on issue of mental health. And some mental health can be negative. That is being calm, being seclusive. Some mental health can be aggressive, like
the well-being of employees, and look at how this actually undermine your productivity. Look at what's called best global practice. The best global practice. Sit on it. Institute a mental health legislation. Let it be a part of your corporate safety policy. Let's start discussing the truth. Let's start opening what you call conversation on mental health, because as of today, mental health is discussed under wrap. It's discussed like, I mean, this was how we discussed Indian hemp many years ago.
Each department having a representative that observe the workers. So when they observe the workers, there will be another department that summarizes them all together. But there will be a representative from each department or each unit of the organization that would observe workers and give reports to the person that is the supervisor or the mental health manager or the safety manager that will analyze these results to know how to best address
that. Mental health issues is for everybody. It's for everybody to talk about. It's not just for the mental health experts. So, I mean, it gives us the credence. It makes us credible enough to be able to sit together and have this conversation. Because the more we talk, it
doesn't only come from the office, it also comes from the home. So understand that employee works has a home, he has an office, but I agree that we stay higher numbers of our work hours in the office. He also has a home. There may be some issues, underlying issues that are securely from his home. Him stay back in the office, afraid to go back home. These are indicators that we should look at as employees and start seeing how you can.
Really appreciate you. See you all next time. Be alive, stay alive to listen and to get attention to our next episode. It's going to be a wonderful moment again. It's going to be a very interesting topic that affects the workplace. Anytime you see our link for our event, always try to share to others so that we'll all come together and have a wonderful time together. Thank you all for listening. Bye. The truth being said is that Nigeria, for example, we have this low level of reporting accidents or reporting results of investigated accidents. We have low data. We don't have facts and figure to tell us that this is what is happening. If you look at in the past few years, there have been a series of fire accidents, gas explosions. In developed countries, everybody will know the root cause of those accidents and how it can be corrected. But we just hear about them. The next thing we hear is that the families of those that are involved have been given this, but we don't know how can we prevent accidents. So accident investigation in Nigeria is very low, and I think we need to do more. And that is why we are here to always give the safety advocacy.
Talking about being intimidated or being victimized, we do not like to come out, especially because of our economic situation in this country. You still want to continue with your work, or the company tries to, settle out of court. Not the kind of settlement of out of court, I would say in an illegal way, yeah? And then the families take some money and ignorantly, that is not even worth, no money is even worth any life, but they take some very ridiculous amount of money for someone's life, and life continues. And then it happens to the next person, and to the next person, and to the next person. There are several reliefs that are available for you instead of doing that. You can go through the courts. There's a compensation, there's a law, there's an employee compensation act to take care of that. You can go under that, you can, through that act, the provision of that act, enforce your rights. You can, all that is done in the court. And also the employer of labor owes you a duty of care. You can also enforce your rights under that duty of care through your through your lawyer, yeah? And then, the thing is, we go through the courts and we find out that we spend years, 3 years, 4 years in courts. That is part of the discouragement. And that's why I come in as a lecturer and tell you that, see, there might, just in case that there might be other ways, would mediation actually be the answer? The first thing I would say for any victim of occupational accidents, victim might be someone who is injured or the relative of a victim, because it can happen that the person is dead. A dead man cannot defend himself, but the relative has some rights, especially the dead man is a breadwinner. Even if he's not, the relative has some sort of right. They lost someone and they need justice. What do? You do not succumb to the pressure of your employer or the company or the organization. Your life is valued. Your life is more important than that work, than returning to that work. Just in case you are just injured, but in return, your life is more important.
Well, so what is mediation? It really is a private dispute resolution process where parties, where a neutral, who is a mediator, resolves issues between two people or two parties, two companies. You understand? It is usually voluntary, and that is essentially what mediation is all about, where a trained neutral, who is called a mediator, resolves issues between two parties. Now, against the backdrop of what a mediation is, I'm now trying to look at this. I'm going to look at this from 3 perspectives. The first perspective, vis-a-vis the topic at hand, is the mediator. What is the mediator trying to achieve between two parties? The first party is the employer. The second party, for the sake of what we're discussing about, I will call them the victim. You understand? So really and truly, what is the intention of the mediator? The intention of the mediator is to find out what the underlying interest is. You see, a lot of times when parties have disputes and they come around, they are aggrieved, they are upset and all of that, when the mediator listens, what he's trying to find out is really what they want. What do you want from this mediation session? You understand? Now, when we talk about occupational hazards can come in different ways. It can result in loss of life. It can result in loss of limb. It can result in I don't know, a deformity that money might not be able to easily cure. So the first thing the mediator needs to first of all find out is what the underlying interest is. What does the victim want? Then, of course, I don't take it for granted that sometimes the employers might be culpable. By the end of the day, if you look at it, they might also be negligent by not putting some certain things in place. But no compensation. How can the victim be compensated? You understand? For what might have happened? Money will not bring back life. money cannot buy back whatever lien. Then again, sometimes people need to also understand the standpoint of the victim. Money is not everything. Sometimes they just want you to show empathy. They want you to show that you care. You understand? Then respect. Everything is not money. Don't say, okay, fine, yeah, well, because this has happened, the Employee Compensation Act.
For you, or maybe some comment. But I would just like to reiterate some of the things that I think you've said, some of the very salient points that you've raised. And that is the importance of mediation. The fact that mediation is something that the employer of labor and even the employee of labor need to be willing to do. I think I took that from your discussion. It's something that both parties must be willing to have. Because if you have one party who is headstrong into litigation, tilting towards litigation, and one party is saying, let's mediate, I don't think mediation will work. And a lot of things come to play in that respect. You know, if you're talking about mediation, we also have the issue of trust. To what extent has the employer of labor gained the trust of his employee, of the victim now? To what extent has he gained the trust of the victim in the course of the employment, during the course of the employment? All this has to play on the desire or the willingness of a party to submit to mediation. There's a case of a victim. He died in the course of employment, workplace accident. When he was sick, when he had the fracture in his leg, you know, that led to his death, the company did not attend to it. You know, they did not help with his bills. They even stopped his salary and everything. And now he's dead, and they're asking for mediation. In fact, they took it to the regulators, you know, trying to get the regulators pressurize the victim and the family before the victim came to the center. Like the center I'm talking about is Occupational Health and Safety, Occupational Health, Safety and Empowerment Center. And the Legal Aid Clinic is the unit that is set up to help, to help victims of occupational accidents, get justice, you know, because we found out that a lot of times they are intimidated. They are intimidated to keep silent, and the issues are not well handled, and then it keeps reoccurring with the same factory, the same company. They keep doing the same thing, the same unsafe acts, you know. So these are the reasons why we have such kind of NGOs, and even it's also part of the work of the regulators. Sorry to digress. So now we work with the regulators, but we see the attitude of the employers of labor. How do we make them to understand that mediation could be the best bet, you know, from the initial, from the beginning? Because there are some certain stages where you don't even introduce mediation. I think so. Maybe because of my lawyer skills.
There's a comment from Wali. It says that the debt will come back, but we are working towards reoccurrence. Does mediation prevent reoccurrence? The question is this. I will act like a typical Nigerian by answering with the question: Does litigation prevent reoccurrence? It doesn't prevent reoccurrence, no. It doesn't prevent reoccurrence.
Good situations, even when the victim dies, that can go through mediation, especially because, you know, the family can't go through that pain, you know, of the.
Can I ask a question? Yeah. Can I ask you a question within the framework of what you just said about closure now? If at the end of the day, you are those parties approach you and say that, okay, fine, you know what, we hear you loud and clear, but we are undertaking that based on the closure for this, we will not do X, Y, Z again, and you are able to get an agreement from them. Is that not mediation?
Why not?